these guys are looking for an avenue out. They're looking to play perfectly for a month, 6 months, a year, 5 years, and they're looking to get out to do something else.
Yeah, it's the 5-year plan max versus
Right.
the we just want a way to degen where we're not being hunted.
But like
me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us lacking. Me and my buddy.
Kick us off, Wiz.
All right, guys, welcome back. Table One Podcast back again. We have our good friend Nick Howard joining us today. My semi-friend, I don't know. I like him a lot. Art Parman's here as well.
That's me.
But yeah, we're just here talking gambling and poker and a little bit of drinking. I hear there's.
Well, listen, in poker and gambling, when you're moving up stakes and you want to play bigger, they call it shot taking. So this episode is going to be all about shot taking. And we're going to be shot taking every few minutes.
You know, I think we should set a timer. But when you guys proposed this to me, I had this idea. I saw it once on Drunken History, and I thought it would be kind of cool to see how messy we could get. So I thought,
Well, Drunk History, by the way, is a fantastic show, and everyone should watch that.
Why are you putting that top on there?
Yeah, you should pour one for all three of us if we're going to do it.
Sorry, guys.
Like Art and I got a little bit of a head start, to be fair, but we're going to participate in the game. So back in my college days, we would do Century Club, which was take a shot of beer every minute for 100 minutes. That got a little messy, but awesome. And then the normal one is, what's it called? What's the 60-minute one? Oh my gosh, Power Hour, which is the same thing. Yeah. But that's also with beer and not liquor. This is barrel strength, never say die. And somehow I got to make a shot.
Cheers. No,
Cheers,
you
boys.
can't tell.
Okay, I'm going to set the timer, too, every 8 minutes.
Every 8 minutes, mentally timed. Cheers, boys.
Did you want to tell the abridged version of your story behind this whiskey? I thought it was really good
Well,
when you told it at table that day.
The full story will be told by Pat Madden, who will be our guest in a few episodes.
I will see.
True. This actually, by the time this episode airs, today we're filming. It's November 27th. Really on November 28th in Kentucky, you can buy this for the first time in America. We ordered it online, paid ridiculous amounts of shipping, and by we, I mean me. This is my 12th bottle I've ordered, and we've got 2 left.
That's true.
It's a Never Say Die small batch bourbon whiskey. It's they make it in Kentucky, and then they let it age in England, and somehow that makes it legally whiskey and bourbon somehow. It's crazy.
It's true. So it can only be bourbon if it's made in Kentucky.
Right. And it can only be... They actually have he has a Scotch whiskey, too, that somehow it's both. It's both... it's bourbon whiskey. Bourbon Scotch whiskey. Okay. I don't know. It's fucked up. It's we'll have Pat on. He'll explain it to all of us.
Yeah.
But the abridged version is... This bourbon was made by the Beatles. That's the abridged
The story's so much better, by the way.
It's really good. You just have to work on your delivery on the last part of it, because sometimes you trail off a little bit when you tell it, and it could hit way harder.
Thank you.
Just want you to do better.
No, we all want Art to do better. Let's be honest.
Art definitely wants Art
Art's
to
been
do
taking
better.
some bad beats lately. Nick, have you ever taken a cooler or a bad beat before?
Yeah, I have this, probably the worst cooler that I can remember. I mean, not that I've played professionally in the last 3 years, but I played poker for 15 years. I'll tell these two side by side. Worst beats I ever took. So starting with last night.
Right away, just last night, huh? All right.
Okay. It goes like this. Small blind, big blind straddle. I'm on the straddle. We're playing 25, 50, 100.
This is table 1, right?
This is at table 1. So playing like 25K, 30K effective stacks. 250 straddles deep effective. Small blind opens, big blind, who's just a pretty solid reg, 3 bets, and I cold 4 bet with pocket kings on the straddle.
You gambler.
He makes it. He clicks it back-ish to 10K, and immediately versus this guy, I was like, okay, I'm not ready to fold, but this guy doesn't do a ton of monkeying around, so I'm already a bit suspicious that this might be one of those spots where you could justify folding kings, but I'm not ready yet. So I decided to just call instead of raise, which is what people do when they're sort of hedging with kings, I guess. And in my head, like I told you guys, I was like, I think I can get away from this in certain spots. I can fold an ace high board. If I get some type of, reads post flop, maybe I could just fold if he just looks super sturdy the whole way through. Not ready to fold yet. Key point that I forgot to preface this with, 7-deuce game is on all the time in our game. So there's a bounty of somewhere between 1,600 and $2,000 for anybody who gets a bluff through at any point in the hand with 7-deuce. So that's always sort of in the back of your mind, and you never really know who's willing to push it super far with 7-deuce, but it's always sort of like a haunting thought whenever you're about to make a big fold. Anyway, I digress. So we go to the flop, ace, ace, 5. So now all thoughts of like folding to pocket aces are basically going out the window, because now there's only one combination of pocket aces left in the deck as opposed to 6. He checks, I check back because I'm terrified and I'm just trying to get showdown. Turn is a jack. He bets 5,000 into 20, and at this point I'm just getting like crazy odds, and in my head I'm just like, I'm praying that he's doing something silly and will give up, or maybe once in a blue moon has queens and I'm ahead.
Maybe the other two kings.
Yeah, he'll give up a lot.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like there is a combination of kings that's like pretty viable. Call. River, brick.
Oh, river was a king, you said.
Yes, river king.
That's
the
opposite of a brick.
It's a brick if they have quad aces.
Like in retrospect, it doesn't really change things, except it just makes the combinations of like all the hands that
all the ace kings and like
Right.
the kings just kind of go out the window.
So, and that's what Paul said to me after. He's like, I feel like the way this board ran out just fucked you straight in the head, because it probably still was a fold, but it just looks like you can't get off it. Anyway, I think what we call this in our game is just like a courtesy double up, where like if you're making this type of fold, you don't belong in our game.
I think that's not right.
Even though you're thinking about it, pre-flop is pretty suspect. If these chairs had wheels, I'd wheel you on out of here right now.
So yeah, I paid that one off happily.
But what do you have?
He shows pocket aces. He shows, and I did some speech play too at the end, and like I felt really good about the fact that he didn't look like super confident. So now I think I'm like, finding the call, and then he turns it over, and it's just like, well,
He was upset that he didn't have more money on the table.
the first thing he said to me, actually, which I think was, looking back, I don't think this is something somebody would say if they didn't have quads. He smirked and he said, "How did we not get it in pre?" Which is a little bit too clever to say when you are, and I had turned my hand over. I was like, "What do you think of that, Andrew?" And he's like, how did we not get it in pre? So maybe that was my indicator that I could have got off it.
Do you think he would say that with 7-deuce ever?
I don't know. I think maybe people can say it, but it's like how you say it. Yeah. But I'm not in the business of folding that hand. I've decided. So
even though you were looking for every opportunity the entire way.
It's fun to. It was a pleasant fiction to think I would fold that hand.
Not that I would ever fold kings as a hero or anything.
So anyway, that got me thinking when Art was asking me about shots we've taken along the way, maybe even beats. The way that I initially established my bankroll was actually through a real bad beat jackpot, which is relevant because I think I would have qualified for the BBJ last night in that hand. Like that's boat versus quads. Mm-hmm. I think it qualifies at least. It reminded me of when I was 21. I had just moved to Vegas. I was playing live a bit back when Venetian had like the 10-20 backroom salon. It was Iceman's game. Yeah. That was the first real experience I had.
Crazy. Teddy, right? Teddy Monroe, right?
Yeah.
I remember him.
So that was the live side of what I was doing, and then like half the week I'd go home and I'd play on Ultimate Bet, UB, for those of you who like remember it before it went under.
Nick's big on the 2-letter acronyms. UB, T1. He likes for table 1.
I think they're efficient and they're catchy.
Just quick side, I'll let you go through, but I was this far away from being a UB pro. I actually signed a contract to be a UB pro.
I used to love it.
That was a week before Black Friday, and I'm just going to say they didn't honor me any of the money that they promised me.
Okay,
anyway,
so that was like 2 years, I think, after when I was like heavy into it. It was UB was like really good for a while.
It was.
Like,
it was.
And it was
top
fast.
3.
I loved it because it was fast.
It was great for the people who could see other people's cards. They fucking crushed it.
All right, shots here, please. While I tell the
come
story,
on.
'cause we're approaching.
Has it been 28 minutes? Or how do I get the fullest shot every time?
Was this one yours last time?
I mean, I don't care which one I take. I'm just.
All right.
How do I reset you?
There it is.
Oh, you're doing 8 minutes. You
Let me
animal
see.
you.
Was this yours?
I think I had the different one.
Doesn't matter.
Here.
You take that one now.
Okay.
But only Bobby has
Cheers.
to care about you now.
All right. Speaking of bad
So
beats.
Ultimate Bet was my main site in Vegas for a while when I wasn't playing the Venetian game, and we had a big house of guys. It was just like a typical poker room where we all had our laptops out. At this point in time, like 2 of us were playing, and I had like 12 tables of Ultimate Bet open, 3-6 no limit.
Jeez.
So I'm just sort of cruising on autopilot, and on one table I get it in with pocket kings. Anybody who multi-tables know that, like, specifically when you're only on a laptop, you get it in and you just minimize the table. Like, you just get out of the way as fast as possible once you're all in so it doesn't distract you from the rest of your tables. So on this particular day, I get it in with kings on a king 8-7 2-spade board. I minimize the table immediately and I go on to my other hands. 10 seconds go by and all of a sudden all the tables freeze on my other games and it says the bad beat jackpot has been hit. What it did not do was pop the table back up where I had won the bad beat jackpot with kings. That board ran out king 9 of spades and the opponent had jack 10 of spades for a straight flush. So everything's frozen and all of a sudden I start getting heckled in one of my other table chats because I'm basically known as the whale on the site, which was warranted. At the time I was just very out of line on that site and everyone hated me. So on another table that I had not won the bad beat jackpot on, I was being heckled like, oh my God, I can't believe this whale is the one who gets to win the bad beat jackpot. And at this point I'm like, what's going on? I start pulling up all my other tables and I find the one where I see the run out frozen, highlighted, like with stars on it where I had gotten quads cracked. I pull up my cashier. My cashier is 110 grand heavy, which is at the time, maybe I had a 100K bankroll, so it was 2x my bankroll, just instantly.
Wait, you're 21 right now?
I was 21 at this time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You had a 100K bankroll? That's like, all right, good, go ahead.
So the first thing I did was close out of the session and we went to the club that night. The second thing that I did was convince myself that I should spend my earnings on a $95,000 BMW. Which luckily
I'm with you there, buddy. I would have done
That's
the
such a
exact same thing.
21-year-old thing to do.
at the time it made a ton of sense. I'm not sure who talked me
It's
out
free
of it,
money.
but
I mean, whatever.
Someone talked you out of it?
someone talked me out of it,
What?
luckily. It wouldn't have mattered anyway. I mean, I still punted it off on other reckless activities.
Which means you
but
should have bought it.
In retrospect, at least it would have had I would have had
Exactly.
an asset.
You would have had at least like 60K return on it when you sold it.
You have something, yeah, you can send to CarMax.
Dude, you only lost like 30% of your depreciation on the car if you would have bought it.
So I never bought it, and I dicked that money off some other way. But what it taught me was that I do appreciate bad beat jackpot structures. I think they're, I mean, obviously I'm biased at this point, but
Yeah.
I think they bring a certain element of good for the game into the game. I understand why people think that it's also a kind of an unnecessary tax, but like those people probably haven't hit one, so
Well, yeah, 'cause there's 3 people in the world that have hit one.
it's pretty hard.
Yeah,
to
I
do.
used to play at a home game that had a bad beat jackpot. They had fucking 3 tables, and then when the bad beat jackpot got to 100K, they got robbed.
Yeah, exactly right.
And then,
Yeah.
oh, what do you know? No more bad beat jackpot.
Oh,
By robbed, I mean
It's
robbed.
It's an idiot tax. And like, let me just say, I agree with you. Bad beat jackpot's good for the game. But when the casino's taking half of it, like for their own purse, it's such a bad deal for everybody. Like, yeah, it makes
Listen,
everyone.
it's a good deal if you win, right, Nick?
I didn't know that they take
No,
that much out of it.
Yeah,
I thought it was all
no.
just going back.
They're not promoting their game. They're certainly not
Well,
doing
Yeah,
it
I
for
don't
the
know
good
how
of the game.
UB used to do it, but they.
Well,
they
UB, I don't know. Venetian.
Yeah, the online ones they would reseed it with some of the money, I think, but I mean, who knows? But the live ones, they're definitely stealing a lot.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the live ones for sure are stealing a lot of money. Not stealing, but you read the fine
Legally
print.
stealing.
I mean, whatever. Just like if you go drive to Prim and get a Super Bowl ticket, yeah, you can win $1 billion. Good for you.
What did you say? A Super Bowl ticket?
Yeah, like the
Super
lottery.
Bowl. Super Bowl.
Lottery. I was thinking Super Bowl. I'm like, a Super Bowl
that'd be nice
ticket.
too.
Wait, I didn't know the Super Bowl was in Prim this year.
One day.
Okay, so you lost the bad beat yesterday and you didn't get anything, but then at one point you won the bad beat. And then in 2 minutes we have to take another shot according to
That's
his
what
phone.
I didn't want to see that number, by the way. Sorry, he just pulled up his phone and he just showed me how many more minutes before I had to take another shot.
I'm trying to stay accountable to the timer.
Let me just say, Art and
Why
I have
didn't you bring
taken
someone-
a few beers to the face already today. So this shot every 8 minutes is going to hit
All I
us
know
hard.
is you're usually good at delegating, and you should have delegated this timer situation.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared.
It's going to come out soon. Either way, I'm sure in 30 seconds we're going to get disturbed. But where were we going with this?
Yeah,
we were
could
going
go-
to Bad Beat Town.
Oh, yeah.
So
we
you
did that, though.
So you won the Bad Beat.
it's
You
not even a bad
dusted
beat.
it all on strippers and tables.
Coke.
Coke.
Probably
okay.
a lot.
I was going to ask if
Coca-Cola,
drugs
definitely
were
nothing
involved.
illegal.
So was it just Coke right away or the lead-up drugs? I'm more curious.
Poker was the lead-up drug.
There were gateway drugs.
Like for you, what was your gateway drug?
Weed was my gateway.
Really?
In fact,
Just like they say on TV.
I feel like weed doesn't lead to anything but like snacks.
A weed dealer leads you to a Coke
Oh,
dealer.
that's fair. That's fair.
but I see it in some of the young kids who play in the poker games where they're like, weed really helps them relax, and that was how I was. Something just happened when I was 22, and like it made me super anxious. So it flipped on me. Didn't even realize that it was doing that for like 3 to 6 months, and I was like just adding to the anxiety by continuing to use it. That's how it became a gateway drug. Is like I needed something besides it once it stopped doing what I was doing. But I actually envy the young 20-somethings that like weed still chills them out, and it sounds like it does that for you too still, but it doesn't do that for me anymore. So,
But like, I feel like I don't want to say normal people, but like people of my age, there was like a bunch of steps between that and Coke. It was like, I know Molly is like, kind of like a thing, or like, like
How old are you, Nick?
37, 36
We're all
actually.
same age. Well, not
Well,
we're all same age.
no, I'm so old.
We're all similar
Back
age.
in my day-
He's old.
We used to kick rocks and spin hoops.
How old are you?
I'm 43. Fairly old.
No, that's fine.
He had to walk to school 2 miles in the snow, uphill, both ways.
Yeah. These are my
Anyway,
story.
Is this on a silent timer or what? I'm thirsty.
Shut up. Art, this is not you.
43, I think you're kind of
Literally
fine.
6 seconds left.
There we go.
I have a good mental clock.
Let's just say I really hope I'm in my prime at 43. Like I think it's very possible that like that could be the prime.
I'm pouring my own.
Okay.
All right.
Did you hear what? I don't want to go too off topic.
There is no off topic.
Did you hear that Paul threw up in the game yesterday?
Sorry, for those who don't know, Paul is a mainstay at Table 1.
If you don't know Paul, he's begging
you.
Anyway, I'll put a link to that somewhere at this point of the video. Cheers, boys.
I'm begging you. Put the 4K in so I can scoop it. I'm begging you.
Washed up rapper turned degenerate poker pro. Oh, I'm sure he'll be on next.
You gotta put the framed photo of his rap group in high school.
Yeah, PG boys. Oh yeah.
I have it right here if you want me to flash it. But anyway, yeah, he had an episode. He ate too much.
Oh, he ate too much.
Oh, because he's on the Ozempic right
He's
now.
on the same thing as me.
He's on the thing.
He's on the
and
shot.
He abused his caloric intake, and the thing spanked him for it. Which
Good.
I think
It'll do
No,
that.
it's a good. I mean, that's why he's taking it. I would imagine.
But it ended up with Paul basically throwing up at the table, and then he had to get a toothbrush delivered to the table so he could brush his teeth at the table because he's extremely hygienic.
Yeah,
which is-
yeah.
Cleanest asshole
So-
in Vegas. Sorry, my kids watch this. Sorry, kids.
I mean, he
Every single hair is perfectly clean.
Groomed.
Just Just screw him. Just pick clean.
No,
He gets lost with those things. Speaking of toothbrush.
his hygiene is one of his biggest strengths, in my opinion. But yeah,
It's true. Next to his
So,
freestyling.
so was he at the table, or did he like run to the bathroom? Did he run to a trash can? Like, what was his strategy for the throwing up?
he got stacked 2 different times with like really bad hands, bluffing into a shield, and then all of a sudden he was nauseous. But we couldn't tell if he was nauseous because of what was happening or because he was playing so bad. So there was this moment where it wasn't clear what was happening. And then he went to the bathroom for 10 minutes and came back and told us that
Okay.
it was
purged.
it was connected to the obese meal that
You
he
know
just
what?
had.
I'm going to retract a little bit. Like, there's a chance it's because it was to a shield. There's a chance that like he felt violent inside because he stacked off to a shield.
It's tough to lose to that French.
A shield,
You
we
know.
love him. Great part of the game. But like when you get stacked by a shield, I honestly can't think of anyone worse. I don't want to get stacked by anyone. And
Well, it's much worse for Paul too because he and Ashiel have like a very intense rivalry at this stage. So actually, last night it culminated in like
is there a rivalry between a hammer and a nail, or
they're very competitive when we play, and like everybody knows in our game, like we're all friends, but like there are some competitive dynamics when we're there. We all sort of like needle each other a bit, but specifically we needle Paul the most, I think.
no? That's very fair.
And that's just the way things are currently.
He accepts it.
He accepts it, and it's just the way it is. But yesterday specifically, Ashiel was just going after him, and like it was just the type of thing where like Ashiel was calling every spot where Paul was bluffing, and whether or not you want to say Paul was bluffing too much is up to someone else's interpretation. But Paul, basically, like the theme of the day was pocket tens were just indestructible, and Ashiel called Paul down twice with pocket tens. A few other people had pocket tens in spots where it's just never supposed to win, and it won. So on the second time that this happened, it was just a spot where like Ashiel should just probably never even be thinking about calling down with tens in this specific spot, and yet he does. And the first thing Paul says, which I told him straight out, I said, "It's out of line. You can't say this. I don't know. I don't care how much you and Ashiel have competitive stuff going on." But Paul basically goes, Paul gets snapped off by Ashiel on the spot, and he looks at Ashiel. He goes, "Did you see my hand?" And he was dead ass because Ashiel's sitting next to him. So the only way this hand made sense in Paul's mind is that Ashiel must have seen that Paul had 7 deuce and was bluffing with 7 deuce. And so they had,
What was the rebuttal? No, I saw your soul.
No, Ashiel handled it. Ashiel handled it.
No,
just
I mean,
fine. But if you know Ashiel, like he would never. If
course
he
not.
saw your hand, he'd be the first one to be like, "I've seen your hand.
Yep.
There's no way.
100%.
There's no 2 ways about it."
not to mention, if he accidentally did, and it was gonna be a scumbag, he would wait like 30 seconds and then like hero call with 2
Yeah,
seconds.
exactly.
Not that I saw the hand, but I'm just saying, like, if you snap call, you're not a scumbag in that spot ever.
All right, so our game aside, let's go back in time.
Yeah.
You win the bad beat. You dust all your money.
Oh, I like this.
How do we get
How
the
do we
juices
arrive
flowing?
there?
Yeah,
again?
how are you here with
how do
us
you go
today?
from D-Gen Nick Howard to
Sure.
D-Gen Nick Howard, who is an entrepreneur in poker?
Sure. I think I can give
And,
like the 1 minute version of it, which would be that.
Dude, just give me the fun
Give
story
me the
version.
8-minute version, and we'll take a shot.
All right, here's what I think is relevant, and I'm 36, and here's what I remember.
You were 37 like 30 seconds ago.
So yeah, I definitely had I think I had the benefit of having rock bottom experiences earlier in my 20s, where like I actually went broke. I actually felt the pain of hitting the floor, and I think it made me more accountable, in the next round, with bankroll management, with just being responsible in more areas of the career, with being accountable to trying to get better. And I ended up having, a pretty decent career from 23 to 27. Around 27, I felt like I was really plateauing. I felt like the resources for strategy online just like weren't helping. I felt like we were at sort of a ceiling. I got a crazy idea that we were going to start doing it differently with data analysis. I had a vision for it. I was lucky enough to meet all the right people my brother of which was like basically an angel on the shoulder of the whole operation because he's an ex-physicist. I got very lucky in being surrounded by people who could bring the vision that I had to life for the company. I opened that company in 2016. This would be around the time that I was 27. And like I told you, it's the biggest parallel I could draw with that period from 27 to 30 is that starting a company is very much like having, you know, a career in poker in the sense that you can go on a break-even stretch or downswing for a year or longer, and you're just accumulating debt with no proof that what you're doing is good or right. And I think that's why it's so hard to. I think that's why the top is very guarded in business and in poker. Is like that's a very hard skill set to cultivate. Not many people have the grit to be able to endure that type of stretch without seeing anything for what they're doing. And I think that's why most people end up doing something, you know, a little bit easier or something that delivers a result a bit faster. So I try to, I think I always pulled back to the rock bottom experiences I had when I made a decision that I was going to stay with poker instead of going and getting like a real world job. Like that was a very pivotal choice for me, and every stage I had building the business that was extremely hard, I think I could remember, you know, that choice point and say, I'm staying here, I'm staying with this, I believe in this. Was it 3 minutes? How did it do?
That was a long 1 minute, but for those who don't know,
Dude, that's sick.
What is your business?
So we basically pivoted around the solver era when like solvers came out in poker. We pivoted to using solvers interactively with data analysis, real pooled data from online hands. We could use real human play and basically show people how to play optimally against humans. That was my vision, at least, where everybody else was basically.
You took you got a bunch of data from online, from actual poker hands, using the help of your brother, who's a physicist, helped you gather the data and assimilate it into something useful for your business. Correct. And then you would stake people and like have somebody else teach them kind of how to play against the player pool, the population of players.
Yes, more or less. It was the gathering part that was totally outside of my skill set. We needed scientists to do that, and then once we had gathered and mapped it, we could create simple methodology for players to go play online against real humans and say, here's what the weaknesses are that we found. Go do these things in these nodes. Imagine we throw up.
Sorry, he's burped like 18 times in the last like 8 minutes. Sorry.
Oh, man, I should have.
Bourbon's not carbonated, boys, but we're burping over here.
But yeah, I felt like a crazy.
Okay, so the short version is you found a shortcut to hacking the poker population, and you taught as many people as you could to play like their normal poker game, but in these certain situations, do this differently, and you'll win way more money.
I think we found some very key tactics. I think if I were to sum it up, we solved a very interesting problem at the time, which was that everybody was overwhelmed with GTO solver work, and we were able to simplify that through the methods that we used. That's the simplest way to put what we did. But what I learned in terms of skill sets from business, I think were more powerful than like the problem that we solved in poker. I think the way that business interacts with time in the same way that poker teaches you how to deal with time, those are the two most similar things I see in them, which is why I think anybody who's good at poker could probably be good at business as long as they know how to talk to people and like, you know, aren't completely.
Or if they're passionate. I mean,
yeah.
To me, I think that's where it's driven. Like if you're passionate about anything and you're intelligent enough to be winner at poker, I think you'd be intelligent enough to win it almost any facet as long as you're passionate about it.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I saw recently that I really loved, and it's the first time I've seen this, but it said something like, there's only two possible outcomes in business. You either quit or you stay with it long enough until it eventually works out. And I think with poker, it's like you're always searching for the better strategies or you're always searching for the better games. Eventually, I think you just find your place if you stick with it for long enough and you take feedback objectively. And with business, it's similar. It's like you're going to fail so many times. The the measure of how successful you will be, can you go further than the guy who failed, at that threshold? Something we say at the company, it's Alex Hormozy that said this first, was like, whenever things get very, very difficult, we always say, this is where everybody else stops, and that's why they don't get to the next level. And so when you normalize that, and the same with poker downswings, like, I know that it's going to suck when I run bad. If I can actually just normalize the feeling of being a professional poker player, which is, it's shitty. It feels really shitty a lot of the time. But being able to deeply acknowledge that, I think, is what allows you to just keep moving forward with the process. And I think that's a very difficult skill to cultivate. I don't see many people with that skill.
It's like Rocky. It's not how hard you get hit. It's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
And that's true. But
cheers.
That was good.
Come on, it can't be time already. I was going to say something very deep.
Go ahead.
How's my shot bigger than yours?
It's always
I'm
big.
5 shots ahead of you.
No, you had something good, though. I didn't want to interrupt. But I did.
No,
Yeah, Justin, be profound. Go.
No, I do think there's and Art and I have talked about personally, and certainly we've talked about it slightly in the podcast, but there is something to making it past 5 years of being a professional gambler, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, whatever it is. You can take these hits, the lows become higher, the highs become lower, which makes you just very steady, on the way up. And I don't even know if it's something to aspire to. I honestly don't, because it's
Aspire to a deadening of your emotions.
I mean, it's true, because the reason I got into gambling, the reason I got into game playing in general, was for the high of winning and the low of losing at the same time. And throughout the years, it's mediated itself to this kind of central thing, and I kind of forced myself into feeling these highs and lows by doing, let's just say, less than optimal things.
Okay, I like this though, because this is a great entry point to why I really was drawn to your guys' game originally when I found it. Because I've worked with tons of online players who have this major void where, they may have figured out how to deal with the variance, but they don't have any type of social life. And what I think the live realm gives you, specifically the dynamic that we have in our game, that I felt right when I walked in. I mean, you guys had already cultivated that energy. It made me feel immediately like the purpose is no longer to navigate these swings and become resilient emotionally. The purpose is to play this game for fun, and the swings will press themselves out, but now we have an opportunity for real human connection. And I know that sounds kind of hokey, but
No.
That was the actual pivot point for me mentally when I realized, okay, now we actually have an avenue to have a non-zero sum game with poker inside of this zero-sum game, which will always suck because we're always just winning and losing big pots and going on huge downswings. But for the first time, I honestly felt like this is something that I can actually stick with for another 15 years because it's filling that human connection void that I see so many players online go through and that I had such experience with myself. So in my opinion, I guess what I'm trying to say is you need to be able to fill the social or human element of your life somehow with poker. For me, at least, in order for it to be manageable long term, I just don't think I would have been able, even if I was the best player in the world, I don't see myself being fulfilled if I'm sitting behind a computer grinding for 15 years without real friendships developing. So.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. You can put money down the rake hole and hope that you can beat the rake, but in some games, the rake doesn't matter and the network matters, and you make friends and you find a way to invest in somebody's company. There's weird second order effects that you never think about, and you're like, wow, I would have never met X or Y and would have never been able to invest in, I don't know, Uber or some shit like that. You never know how certain people meet each other, right? And poker is the great equalizer, I always call it, where you can play with people who, they're not trying to make their living at poker, but they love the game, and they love the challenge of the game, the puzzle, the logic puzzle of the game, but really just expanding your network and being able to help each other. Basically, two people who otherwise never would have met if it weren't for this common ground. It's good. I mean, it's a great game, poker.
It's very profound.
I'm fucking drunk.
I mean, no, clearly, Art and I've been drinking for quite a bit. So, if whatever, we have 8 people sit down at a table, and if you could track their life graphs over the last 6 months, year, 5 years, whatever it is, everyone's thing is just gonna be all over the place. A lot of people are just gonna be coming up barely tipping the top of mediocre, and a lot of people are coming from high and gonna get down low. Everyone's facing their own personal demons at that moment, and it's kind of cool to talk to somebody that has seen so much more than you have, from the highs to the lows or the lows to the highs, where you can actually appreciate it. And especially as a poker player, you've been high and low. When you talk to somebody who's been way higher and then got low, or lower and got to high, that's so important. It really is. It touches your soul. I don't mean to.
Yeah, I mean,
I am drunk.
It sounds funny, but
no, it's 100% true though.
We've played with someone this is a true story. We played with someone who has one of the highest salaries in the country, and we've played with someone who put $2,000 into a crypto coin and became one of the richest people in the country. So and then everywhere in between, the highs and lows of all of these people intersecting is just one of the beautiful things about poker that'll never go away. I feel like it's just there's no gatekeeping. There's no, I mean, the stakes,
there's no judgment.
Are a little bit,
no
but
judgment.
Anyone can walk into table one and sit
judgment.
down and be like, oh, I have $3,000. I want to play poker with you guys. And, you might lose the 3K, you might win, but you get to meet some interesting people for sure. That's the only thing that's guaranteed. Yeah. All right, where should we go to next, boys?
I think we need to talk about alcohol, since we're about to do our next shot.
No.
Do we have to talk about it, or do we just?
I just took a shot 2 seconds ago.
Well, here's what I want to say in regard to network effects, because I come from an online background. I speak to a lot of online guys. That was where I started, and I know the way that those guys think very well. That whole ecosystem, and I think it's a big part of the poker ecosystem, is very strategy oriented. They see the game through very through an incomplete perspective, which is we're going to level up in this
Ones
game.
and zeros.
We're going to level up by getting as good as possible at strategy. And throughout that whole process, I'm also trying to lead a group of players to their potential. So I have to have this mindset persona of okay, let's get our shit together, let's be on schedules. And that's what you see on Twitter Hard Takes in 2022, which is one big experiment basically that I was sort of taking part in. But my point here is that what I feel like right now, after joining this the next level of the game, which I'll call the sort of private arena, is that it's kind of all that goes out the window. On one hand, if you're going to be an online poker player and you want to make a lot of money, sure, be on a really strict schedule and don't do anything out of line, don't do drugs, don't drink. You get into the live world and there's just a different objective. For me, it's a much more social objective. I mean, I came in with you guys and right away I was the type of guy that was just taking people out every night. I don't do that because I do love drugs and alcohol, but I don't do that specifically because of that. I do it because, and hear me right now, this is important. I do it because that is a natural point of human connection that has been that way for hundreds of years. Thousands of years people have used alcohol to open up and get more comfortable with each other. So I see alcohol and just the social drinking part of live poker as a vessel for human connection. And I think being out all these nights and seeing these relationships that develop through the game, I'm sure of that. It's something I'm very sure of, and you can judge the lifestyle or whatever, but I think real connections get made when people are able to let their guard down, and whatever you need to do, if you need to drink, whatever, like it doesn't bother me. I don't have judgment towards that.
Shout out to alcohol.
But I think this is important because, like, you know, there's always alcohol flying around in the game, in these private games.
I think a big part of this podcast, like actually the main theme of this podcast, is the differential between gamblers, people that want to make connections, have fun, hopefully make money. Like this is the hopefully make money, or like the people that are in it for percentage points, and it's just like, well, if I drink, then like all of a sudden my percentage of ROI goes down to like 0.4%.
Exactly.
I can't handle that.
Exactly.
And like that's unacceptable to our game specifically.
That is
but like in the perpetuation of poker in general, I think it's awful. And like this is why you've seen people with hoodies and holding their heads like this and heart checks and stuff like that. Like this stuff isn't helping the game, but in their mind, which is fine, these guys are looking for an avenue out. They're looking to play perfectly for a month, 6 months, a year, 5 years, and they're looking to get out to do something else.
Yeah, it's the 5-year plan max versus the we just want a way to degen where we're not being hunted.
But like real gamblers, real poker players want to perpetuate the game, and like I think that's very important for our game specifically, where we want the game to succeed long after we're gone. Like if our private game, if our podcast ends tomorrow, thankfully not. You know, I want it to continue. Like poker is a beautiful game. It's a game of people, not a game of like odds and stuff like that. Like I mean, it's very drunk people. I can barely stand right now. But like, but it's true.
That's the point that I wanted to get to, and thanks for like looping it together, because basically what alcohol does is well, let's start here. You cannot be one of those players with a hoodie and survive.
I can't cheers. Mine's empty.
You cannot be a hoodie, headphones guy with a very intense demeanor at the table and get invited back to a private game. It just will not fly. So when I say that I'm sort of a walking paradox in the sense that I left the online realm where I was saying like we should have these strict schedule performance, rules, and now we're in a arena where we just fucking drink often. Like, let's just be honest, that's how it works. It's because the objective has shifted. The objective is no longer to be like strategically perfect every day. The objective is to make people feel comfortable and cultivate a vibe where people want to come back. And I think that's not yet understood by a lot of poker players, is that the objective actually changes at the private level.
Yeah, it's adding new value. You're adding just like the value of camaraderie and like hanging out, and we are all, we're all fucking ourselves with the alcohol. We're bringing ourselves down together.
We talked about this zero-sum game as far as like what you're bringing to a game. Let's take private games away from it. You go to a public game and you're just there out for yourself. Like it's a negative game for the game. Like that your goal is a negative game for the game. Where private games are like it should be neutral or positive, and that's what it should be. So like sometimes you take a hit, sometimes you don't play optimally, and that does suck, especially when you go on downswings, which do often happen. Often. But at the same point, you're perpetuating something that's better than yourself, and like you're. I understand that you're still trying to make money on the back end, but like it's a positive thing you're trying to do.
A good barometer is to say like, hey, this guy's playing the game. When's the last time he straddled without saying round of straddles? Do we all want to straddle?
Yeah,
guys, I'll do it if everyone's doing it.
I think when it starts to make sense when you see that you're sacrificing win rate at the table for EV in other areas of networking in life, like
networking too.
Like just the network effects of being able to invest with other people, or just go out to dinners with certain people who can invite you to other events. Like, there's so many hidden ways that you can generate EV besides your strategy at the table. I think that's just a very incomplete perspective that most players operate from, and at the private level, it gets exposed. The people who are going out of their way to develop connections with other people who have abundant networks in other industries, that's the path out. That's the highest leverage path out. And like, I think it needs to be modeled more. I'm not trying to like, get on our high horse and be like, this is how it needs to be. But like, I see a lot of people who a lot of poker players who don't really know how this scales. And I like looking at poker as a business, and like, there are orders of leverage. You need to develop social skills and sacrifice a little bit of your strategic intensity if you want to get to the top of this industry. It's just very clear to me at this point.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's just funny because there's some people who, like, I don't know, we don't want to get out of this industry. we want to make money with being able to angel invest in the best companies and that type of thing, but we want to also be able to give action and gamble without running into people who they're only in poker for 5 years and they just want all your money and they'll move to the left of you any chance they get, and then they're out. Like, it's interesting because some people want to move on from poker and go into business, and that's fine. But like, it's the method with which you do it. There's like, I would like to be invested in, I did a few angel investments this year, and like, it's really fun to be involved in that type of thing. But in terms of just poker in general, you show all your cards when you take every inch of value, and you're just like trying to hunt people.
That's what it is. Yeah. If you're hunting, nobody wants to hang out with you.
Yeah, you got to give action to be involved in the action kind of thing. You have to be willing to be the fifth best player in the game.
It goes back to like Doyle's like original book. Like, you have to give action to get action, and like it should hold true.
Book?
No, Super System, 100%.
I think he said that.
Like, yes, 100%. Super System was like probably the third poker book I ever read, but like the mainstay, and even though like I was a nit when I read it, was to make sure that you understand to give people action that you want action back from, and it's true to this day. And like, we can say whatever we want to about private games, but at the same point, it holds true. Like, people that are not.
It's kind of the golden rule, treat other people the way you want to be treated. Even if it's poker, even if it's real life, you want people to, not try to be transactional with you. You just want people to do you favors, and you do them favors, and you expect nothing in return.
I just got reminded of the first time that we all met, and there's a good example of these two different perspectives on the game came from that game. So I don't know if you guys remember, but Berkey had some arcade basement game where we played live one day, and I didn't even know.
I do remember
that Art was in the game. The first time I showed up to the table one game, Art was there, not you, and he remembered me from that game, and I didn't remember him because he was wearing a hat or something in the game. But we were basically playing like six-handed that day, and
It's such a silly game, but yeah.
Everybody was fucking.
Was that the one where we were like trying to say what we're doing with the headphones on, or no?
No. This was the three of us and I don't know, a couple other guys who Berkey had in for town. But this game didn't last long. Berkey was running it on stream for like, I don't know, a couple weeks or something. But we show up on the premise that it's going to be like 10, 25, 50, and it like quickly turns into 50, 100, and maybe even we were straddling 200 sometimes. So I didn't come prepared to play those stakes. So I was basically piecing out during the game. So I'm like in the kitchen, ripping shots of whiskey, selling action while and coming back to the stream. And what I learned that day was that was one of my first private experiences. I hadn't really dabbled in like those games, and like if you remember, it was a very drunk game that day. You got buried that day, I think.
Turns out I do remember.
But so everybody's splashing like hard, and I remember I booked a small win or something, and I was talking to a couple of the people who booked action with me. And I'm talking about like some of the most strategically accountable people in my network, online players, obviously. And they come to me after watching the stream and they're like, we think you're probably a winner in this game, but we won't stake you for any game outside of this game because we think you played horrible. And they pointed to like some, I don't know, like
whatever,
some calls that I made pre-flop that were like a couple pips too wide or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you clearly don't understand the dynamics of private. Like you have to do this.
Which is funny because it's your first experience and you're like
intuitively. You did what you're supposed to do. You literally did what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to widen all your ranges.
Exactly.
And like just trust yourself on rivers.
Go street.
Like, that's fine.
And just go street with it.
Go street. That's exactly. I know. People call me street all the time, and I don't know what it means, but I'm pretty sure it's not a compliment.
It can be if
you're anyone calling me street.
Like I know I've been in this industry a long time, and I understand what it means, but I don't think it's a compliment when actual like these like 28-year-olds like goes, "Oh, that was such a street bet there." I'm like,
street poker.
I was like, "Oh, thank you," and they're like, they just like turn away, and I'm like, no, I don't think that you mean this as a compliment. Like I think you just mean I just made it out of the box play.
Have 8 minutes passed?
My God, I hope not.
I'll tell you what. This is why Paul's next album will be titled Calibrated Whale, because playing calibrated street poker is the pinnacle of poker, in my opinion. Being able to get in there and dance around and then make really good river decisions.
No, I mean, like, there are a ton of pros that have like made their living off this stuff, and like I know they have
calibrated street poker.
Oh my gosh, to Paul the whale.
Paul's a whale.
Paul's now convinced that his shield has lights out live tells on him. And that's the only way his shield was able to make these calls yesterday.
No.
Yet I was watching his shield throughout the whole hand and he never looked at Paul.
No. By the way, no. The answer is no. I mean,
he put him on 7 deuce.
Sometimes you got to put him in.
I had a conversation with Paul recently where I want to talk about where we're actually talking about. But the initial part of the conversation was, I think people in our game don't bluff enough on the river. And I'm like, yeah. Like, you shouldn't be calling as wide as you do. And he's just like, no, forget about that. Like, let's just go on to.
I have a game I want to invent.
The thing I want to. He's like, but it's called like Paul's game or King's game or something like that. And it's a great game, by the way. Paul, it's a great game. I'm not joking, but like
your game is great.
No one's trying to bluff you.
Don't call
Paul.
the river as much as you do.
I'm trying to bluff you. He's trying to bluff you.
I'm definitely trying to bluff him.
I'm probably trying to bluff you.
I would never.
About a shield.
Paul, if you're listening, I would never try to bluff you. Never. Every time I bet the river, have it. So just let it go. Anyways, what's the game with the crown? We got.
Did you decide what you want for the crown?
So for those that are listening at home that don't know what the fuck we're talking about because we're drunk, we're trying to invent a new game in poker. We have the stand-up game where you have to stand up. Everyone stands up. If you win a pot, you get to sit down. Last man standing pays everyone a bounty.
It's a great game, by the way.
Couple big blinds, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It could be fucking $2. It would be an amazing game for the game. But we're trying to find a new game. And Paul, our friend, he bought a crown on eBay or something.
3,
Amazon,
I hear.
whatever.
3 crowns.
He bought crowns, but I think we only need 1 for the game. I don't think there can be 3 kings.
There's 1 king for sure.
There's 1 king. Anyway, he wants to do a game where we wear the crown somehow, and there's some way to entice bluffing on the river. Now, he wants a really complex game.
It has to be simple.
But it has to be simple. You have to be able to explain it to anyone sitting down. My idea for the game was if anyone wins a pot with King 3, which looks like a king and a crown, a little 3.
Like a little crown.
A little crown. Then the game activates. Automatic stand-up game. The king doesn't have to stand up. He sits down. He's the fucking king. So he doesn't have to pay at all.
That's the guy who bluffed with King 3 to activate the game?
Exactly.
Okay.
And he gets to wear the crown. And I don't know. I think that should be the whole game.
I think that's perfectly fine.
You don't need to do anything else. And then Paul was trying to incentivize bluffing on the river.
He
and
wants to
he wants to switch the crown around to someone else. And
he wants to incorporate the phrase "Pay me, you peasants."
Oh, so
Well, you can still do that,
so
by
that's
the way.
good.
But
what if the
continue.
guy? So what if the last guy to fold when you win with King 3? Every hand until the stand-up game ends
He pays
has
an
to pay you a bounty,
Something like this.
like
yeah.
$50, $100, whatever,
I like that.
like a small blind, something like that.
So he has more incentive to play hard early and stand up, because he's paying an extra penalty. Every hand.
It doesn't matter till the game ends. He has to pay you.
But like,
I don't know,
but
something like that.
Yeah, you pick out your peasant. Like when you get
Pick your
crowned,
peasant?
when you get the crown, you're like, okay, you're gonna be my peasant today.
I feel like it should
and every
be
time I
bluffed.
win a pot, you owe me $50.
It should be
until
bluff,
you win a
though,
pot.
right? It should be like the guy you bluffed has to
This is-
pay.
it's
you.
Oh,
works.
no, that's actually
The guy you beat with the King 3, instead of a bounty right then and there, every hand until the game ends has to give you a tax. Or
like a peasant.
everyone has to give you a tax that's standing. Everyone who's still
I
standing.
like a peasant. I like it more personalized
Has
for
to
some
be.
reason.
What if it's everyone who's still standing? Every hand a quarter. Till you're every hand a quarter.
You just make it a splash pot.
Well, no, because if everybody has to pay you a quarter, that's what? There's 8 players at the table other than you.
It's a good.
That's
it's a good
$200. You have to be incentivized to win a hand, so you don't have to pay that quarter every single hand.
The problem is like logistically, it's tough. Like everyone's like
That's the
tossing you
problem.
like
It's-
stuff.
What do you mean it's
It
logistically
adds
tough?
friction to the game.
No, like
it adds
it
game friction.
takes
Oh,
the
this
next.
is hard. I have to pay a quarter.
What,
this is
you think
impossible.
the dealers just were like, did everyone pay? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe
But wait,
there's a chance.
More importantly, how do you
King has to be
how do you
responsible for his-
dethrone the king?
The game ends. That's it.
The standing game ends.
Yeah.
And then
Once the
it's-
game ends, then
or
it's the next
you won
person
King
with
3,
King 3.
like something like that.
I mean, you could continue the game with another King 3, but King 3 is a pretty good hand compared to like 7 deuce.
I mean, I would love King 3.
Dude, I'm drunk. How long have we been talking for?
I don't know.
What else do you guys want to say?
I don't know.
So
Are we
much
complete? Are we
Are
complete?
we complete?
So much
We're
more
never
stuff.
complete. The podcast never ends.
Well, I'll just say something on a personal note. I'm gonna go to the mall after this, and the reason that I'm doing that is because I do my best shopping when I'm drunk. My wife and I, the mall is our favorite place, but what we figured out is that if we're actually shopping for clothes, we shouldn't go together because we both get into our own zones. I need to be doing my own thing, going to my own stores, etc. So I do all my shopping alone, and I do my best shopping when I'm drunk. So from a delegation standpoint, scheduling standpoint, this was perfect because I can get wasted with you guys. I'm gonna go to the mall for 3 hours. I'm gonna have Paul.
3 hours?
I'm gonna have Paul pick me up from the mall when he gets back from
Paul's
the
in
airport.
LA.
He's
He's
sleeping in
coming
my
back.
house.
He's coming back.
and
He
then
drove
we'll go,
there.
and then
He's
we'll
not
go
going to the airport.
He's driving home. He said.
Yeah, he's fine.
Something.
What? You said the airport.
He flew there. He's driving back.
What?
Come on, dog.
Did he buy
Do
a
you know
car
how
while
Paul
he's there?
works? Come on.
How many drinks have you smoked?
Oh man.
So, what are you looking to buy? Let's get to
I want
specifics.
to stand
Well,
up. I want to see this outfit right now.
This is. I don't have a lot going on.
This is nothing.
First of all, I wear the same pants. to
Wow,
the
you
game
have a
every
weird
day.
zipper on your butt area.
It cost him an extra $300 for
Damn,
those
was that
pants.
$300 zipper?
I have 4 types of these pants. It's all I wear, and the reason is because I've lost so many chips when I don't have zipper pockets that I've learned my lesson.
It's not the zipper pockets, guys.
It's not the pants' fault.
the chips are safest in the pockets. My experience with Nick.
So now I have this like Facebook entrepreneur habit of like only wearing the same pants every day, which is kind of gross, but I have a lot of pairs of them, so it's fine.
Like Homer Simpson.
The problem I'm having is my clothes are disappearing at a very high rate in my home, and it's like, you know how when socks get like chewed up and you just eventually have no socks left? That's happening with my hats and my t-shirts, and I can't figure out what's happening. I've addressed my wife. She doesn't know what's going on. I can't figure it out, so I have to basically keep going shopping at a very high rate
Wow.
to compensate for the fact that my clothes keep disappearing.
I feel like Nordstrom's like stealing your clothes.
That's what's happening in my life right now. So.
I mean,
Life's tough, man.
I don't know how to handle that diatribe you just had, but So
Some people lose their socks in the dryer. You just lost like
just lose
pants,
clothes.
shirts.
Pants, shirts, hats. My favorite hat is missing. The Raiders hat that I showed you. with
no,
the
I
orange.
hate that hat.
I love it.
No, I know what you're talking about.
He's a Broncos
I do.
fan.
Sorry.
He hates that hat.
5 in a row, guys.
Yeah, they make it in Broncos. I can get
Broncos are going to go 4-2. The last 6 games, we're making the playoffs. After that, I can't guarantee anything.
He is drunk, guys. He is drunk.
That is true.
Don't put it down.
I'm sorry.
You got a man reaching for a shot glass.
We're gonna crush this. I don't think we can end until we finish this. This is actually.
Ooh, should we keep going? Oh, how's yours always the most?
Because like he said, like, should we finish this bottle? I'm like, yeah, probably.
I mean, we're almost there. Can we actually finish this bottle and still go on with our day, or do we have?
It's nighttime.
Am I gonna be able to go to the mall? All right, should we do an outro, or do we not care? Should we just fade into oblivion because we're too drunk, or should we do like a proper outro?
That sounds like
think I
good.
did.
No, I did.
Not
I did.
you.
I did.
I heard him like
Oh,
tense
man.
up and fart. Can that be the outro, please?
Well, we accomplished our mission of completing this entire bottle.
Never say die.
I hope you guys enjoyed our
Hour of power.
our power hour on
That's good.
all things Table One, and also a little bit of a background on my transition.
He used to be a man, but
Now he's a Superman.
parallels between business and poker. Thanks for joining us.
But no, Nick Howard's been a great guest, and anyone's journey towards gambling as opposed to being a humdrum poker player is always welcome here. And I don't know. It's I'm fucking hammered.
I think we can end it there. No outro needed. Thanks,
No,
everybody.
Art, do your thing. Honestly.
You want to throw up?
No, Art. Art. Come on, Art, do your thing.
What's our Twitter?
at Table One Vegas.
that's
Table, the number one, Vegas.
That will give you access to all the bad beats
Is that
and
true?
all the coolest spots. That's
Sure.
the one you should follow.
We have something, we call it the Degenerates Agreement. Okay? All you have to do to get more of this content is subscribe, like, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and that's it. Seriously, retweet anything you see from Table One Vegas, and you'll have infinite glory in the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah. I didn't think you were going that way. What's the Viking Kingdom of Glory? What is it called?
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, I just realized I have a microphone right here. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
That was a good
All right, guys. Table One Podcast. We love you guys. Please follow, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. We appreciate it. Nick Howard appreciates it. Art Parmer appreciates it. I appreciate it. Please, I love you guys. All right, check out.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging.
I'm glad I get to edit this. That's all. That's all there is to it.
You know I've been in my bag, buddy. I got it like that.